Welcome back to Riley Every Day as we continue our countdown through the top 5 storylines in the Big Ten for the upcoming season. And checking in at number 2, how will Michigan's new pieces fit? So year 1 for Dusty May was a resounding success. The Wolverines logged their highest win total since 2019. They won the Big Ten tournament and they secured a spot in the second weekend. That Twin Tower pairing of Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden gave teams across the country fits. Golden was that physical presence inside who dominated the glass and dunked everything, while Wolf's unorthodox point forward style landed him firmly in the first round of the NBA draft. And as a whole, Michigan was really good defensively. They ranked 12th nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency per KenPom, and per CBB analytics, they were in the 97th percentile in shot attempts allowed at the rim. They had guards like Namari Burnett and Roddy Gale who kept their men in front of them, and then that 2 7-footer pairing, it really just kept teams away from the basket, despite neither of them really being an elite defender. And moreover, I'd be remiss to not mention how awesome Michigan was in close games. They were 13-5 on the season in contests decided by 2 possessions or fewer, and had a 12-2 mark in that same category in Big Ten play. Dusty really showed his coaching chops in crunch time this past season. Now, fast forward to the offseason, and May and co made big waves throughout the portal window to rebuild the roster. But the questions remain, how will they all look together on the court? So let's get into it. So UAB transfer Yakel Lindborg is the headliner. He comes in after testing the NBA draft process, but ultimately electing to spend his final season in Ann Arbor. And he gives the Wolverines that star power, the conference player of the year contender. He is the clear replacement for Danny Wolf. In fact, if you look at his stats last season, he's one of just 5 players ever to average over 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists in the shot clock era. Now, he's not going to initiate the offense as much as Wolf. He's a slight step down as a passer, but he's still really good at leading the break, and he's a wizard in the pinch post, finding the man in the dunker spot, identifying cutters along the baseline, and kicking out to shooters. Plus, he's a little more aggressive in terms of creating his own offense. Last season, he averaged almost 4 made field goals a game unassisted, which is in the 98th percentile. He's a 6'9" forward with a 7'4" wingspan who will be a walking highlight reel. Moving on to the bigs, this portal center class was not particularly deep, but in the ultimate power move, May pulled in 2 of the best 5 men available. Obviously, both won't start, but they bring complementary skill sets that the coach will experiment with. So with Merez Johnson, the Illinois transfer, he is a big play finisher. He's a terrific lob threat with explosive vertical athleticism. He's a rebounding machine who plays with an edge. As of right now, he's the presumptive starter. But I actually like Ade Mara, the UCLA transfer, slightly better as the breakout candidate. He played just 13 minutes per game for the Bruins, but he could seize the starting 5 this year. Over UCLA's final 16 games, Mara eclipsed that 20-minute mark 8 times, and his averages over that stretch were 9-5 with over 2 blocks per game. And I think that's the big sell on him. He had this otherworldly 17% block rate. Now, you got to stretch that out over bigger minutes, more legit minutes to be sure, but he's 7'3" with prototypical size, and he's a good passer on the offensive side as well. He can make plays out of the short roll or at the top of the key. You pair him with Lindborg, and it just makes your offense that much more dynamic. But the swing piece is North Carolina transfer Elliot Cadeau. The one-time 5-star point guard will hope to revive his career under May's tutelage. He's known as a true floor general who can throw eye-popping dimes, and at his best, he sees things on the court before they unfold, and he's not afraid to squeeze a pass into a tight window. It's worth noting in 2 years in Chapel Hill, he never had a true lob threat, so he's got to be licking his chops to get on the court with Lindborg, Mara, and Johnson. Also, he was pretty good at getting to the rim when he played with the Tar Heels. He has the first step to beat his man off the bounce, and is somewhat a crafty finisher despite being only about 6'1". However, the big question on him is his 3-point shot. It remains a work in progress. In 2 years in Chapel Hill, he had just 39 makes at a 28% clip. Even late into last season, teams were still sagging off and daring him to shoot. Final note on Cadeau, he led the ACC in assists and also turnovers, some of that erratic play. However, I will say, as someone who watched every game of Cadeau's career, a lot of those turnovers weren't exactly his fault. He didn't really play on a roster suited for him at UNC. He shared the backcourt with another small guard and RJ Davis. There are just multiple ball dominant options, so I'm really excited to see if Dusty can truly unlock him. So all in all, 3-point shooting might be Michigan's biggest question mark. The aforementioned Gale shot just 23% from beyond the arc last year, and neither Mara nor Johnson are shooters. Lindborg is capable. He hit 36% of his triples a season ago, but he's just a lower volume guy. Burnett, now he will give them a boost. He made 40% of his threes last year. Great to have him back in the fold, but beyond him, the onus will fall upon Trey McKinney and Winters Grady to add a boost from deep. Of course, I have to acknowledge Michigan finished tied for second in the Big Ten last year, despite having just the 14th best offense per KenPom. They only made 30% of their triples. However, I would expect their fans will want them to go a little bit further than the Sweet 16 this year. When you look at preseason rankings and expectations, they're hoping for a Final Four push, so offensive strides must be made to reach those goals.